the distant forests of North America, life was defined by the cycles of nature, and trappers shaped their daily routines around the rhythms of the wilderness. They knew the forests intimately, understanding the habits of animals, the seasons, and the subtleties of the land. Rivers abundant with fish provided sustenance, while clearings and wooded areas offered a rich variety of game. For the trappers, fur was much more than a material. It represented survival, economic stability, and status within trading networks. The ability to produce high-quality pelts directly influenced a trapper's reputation and opportunities for trade. In these remote landscapes, every action had consequences, and knowledge of fur preparation was both practical and strategic. The process of preparing fur began immediately after an animal was caught. Animals such as foxes, martens, otters, and beavers were carefully skinned to preserve the integrity of the hide. Trappers understood that the speed and precision of skinning directly affected the quality of the fur. Once separated, the hides had to be cleaned meticulously. The removal of flesh, fat, and blood was performed using small knives and scraping tools, ensuring that the fine hair fibers were not damaged. Experienced trappers were able to perform this task with great skill, often completing it in a manner that left the hide uniform and ready for further treatment. The attention to detail in this initial stage set the foundation for the value of the pelt. After cleaning, the hides underwent the drying process. Trappers relied on their knowledge of the forest to select branches that could support the weight of a stretched hide without breaking. Young maple and ash branches were frequently chosen for their balance of flexibility and strength. The hides were tied with leather strips or ropes in a pattern that allowed even tension across the surface. This prevented shrinkage and maintained the natural shape of the fur. Natural air circulation and cool forest winds contributed to drying, but sunlight exposure was carefully controlled. Only brief periods in the sun were allowed, as prolonged exposure could make the fur brittle and diminish its texture and luster. Trappers would often monitor the drying process for hours, adjusting the position of the hide, rotating it, and sometimes elevating it on frames to ensure even airflow and prevent contact with moisture or insects. Salt played a critical role in preserving the hides. Coarse salt was applied to draw moisture out and inhibit bacterial growth. The duration of salting depended on the type and thickness of the fur. Thin pelts, like those of foxes or martens, required only a few hours, while thicker hides, such as beaver, bison, or moose, required days to ensure complete preservation. In some cases, trappers combined salt with powdered ash or lime to enhance moisture extraction and prepare the hide for tanning. After salting, the hides were often stored off the ground, sometimes suspended within cabins or lean-tos, to protect them from dampness and predators. This careful attention to storage demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of preservation, methods that went beyond simple salting. Tanning was the process that transformed raw hides into durable materials, capable of withstanding moisture and use. Trappers made use of natural tannins found in tree bark, wood, and certain plants. Oak, ash, and hemlock bark were especially prized for their ability to produce supple and resilient fur. The hides were soaked in water infused with these materials, allowing the tannins to penetrate the fibers. Thick hides such as beaver required prolonged soaking, frequent agitation, and sometimes replacement of the solution to ensure uniform treatment. Historical records suggest that trappers occasionally massaged the hides during soaking to further improve absorption and consistency. Tanning not only preserved the hide, but also imparted elasticity, making the fur soft and durable. Poorly tanned hides were prone to stiffness and decay, greatly reducing their value and usefulness. Stretching and binding the hides were essential steps in the preparation process. Trappers carefully stretched each hide on wooden frames and used ropes or leather strips to maintain even tension. This prevented curling or wrinkling, ensured uniform drying, and contributed to the final shape and quality of the fur. Stretching also softened the fibers, allowing them to remain flexible while preserving volume and beauty. The choice of binding materials and the skill with which tension was applied reflected years of experience and passed down knowledge. Improper stretching or binding could result in a pelt that was misshapen or uneven, highlighting the importance of technique in producing a marketable product. Each type of fur required specific attention. Small pelts such as foxes and martens were highly valued for their softness and aesthetic appeal. The expertise demonstrated by trappers extended beyond simple survival skills, encompassing an intimate understanding of the natural world and its resources. They were acutely aware of the seasonal changes that affected the quality of fur and the behavior of animals, and this knowledge informed almost every decision they made. Winter pelts, for instance, were often the most prized due to their density, insulating properties, and luxurious appearance. The underfur, which developed thick and soft in response to cold temperatures, required careful handling during skinning and scraping to preserve its integrity. Trappers knew that harvesting too early or too late in the season could compromise the value of a pelt. Spring pelts were generally thinner and more prone to shedding, while summer pelts offered a compromise in terms of softness and density, often requiring extra attention during the salting and drying processes. The choice of trees and branches for drying was another subtle art refined over generations. While young maple and ash were commonly used, trappers also experimented with other species depending on availability and seasonal growth. Willow branches, for instance, were favored in areas near water due to their natural flexibility, while birch was occasionally chosen for its resilience and smooth texture, which prevented the hide from catching or tearing. The placement of the hide on the branch, as well as the direction of tension applied through ropes or leather straps, was adjusted to account for the weight and thickness of the pelt. Each type of fur responded differently. Fine furs stretched more easily and could be tied loosely, while thicker hides required careful balancing to avoid cracking the leather or compressing the hair. Salting techniques also varied widely. Trappers learned to adapt the amount and type of salt to the specific conditions and the kind of fur they were preserving. In colder climates, heavier salting could prevent ice crystals from forming within the hide, which could otherwise damage the delicate fibers. In regions with higher humidity, trappers sometimes layered salt with powdered bark or ash to create a protective crust that absorbed moisture while simultaneously introducing early natural tannins. This step, often overlooked in simplified historical accounts, was crucial to ensuring the hide would withstand the multiple stages of tanning without losing its shape or strength. Some records even describe trappers creating rudimentary storage areas, elevated and ventilated, to maintain consistent airflow around the salted hides, preventing mold and insect infestations before the hides could undergo the tanning process. Tanning itself was a labor-intensive and highly nuanced procedure. Trappers made use of the natural chemicals in tree bark, particularly the tannins found in oak, ash, and hemlock, which helped to soften the hide while making it resistant to moisture and decay. The hides were immersed in solutions for extended periods, often days at a time, with frequent agitation to ensure even penetration. For particularly thick hides, such as those of beaver or bison, trappers developed methods to rotate or knead the hide within the tanning solutions to prevent uneven tanning. Some sources suggest that the choice of water source, whether from a river, spring, or collected rain, also subtly influenced the outcome. as mineral content and temperature could affect the absorption of tannins. The level of skill required to manage these variables effectively cannot be overstated, and even minor deviations could render a hide stiff, brittle, or unevenly treated, significantly lowering its market value. The process of stretching and binding the hides during and after tanning was equally intricate. Trappers constructed wooden frames, sometimes using simple crossbeams or more elaborate circular structures to accommodate the specific size and shape of each hide. Ropes, leather strips, and occasionally sinew were used to secure the hide, with tension applied in multiple directions to preserve its dimensions while promoting softness. Stretching not only corrected natural shrinkage that occurred during drying, but also allowed trappers to achieve a desirable texture in the fur. The tactile nature of this work meant that trappers relied heavily on their hands and judgment, feeling for areas of resistance or uneven tension and adjusting the binding accordingly. Over time, this hands-on knowledge became an almost instinctive skill, passed down through apprenticeship and observation. Different furs presented unique challenges and required specialized attention. Foxes and martens, with their fine and lustrous coats, were particularly delicate, and even minor errors in handling could lead to patchy or brittle fur. The legacy of trappers and their meticulous methods of fur preparation reflects a unique confluence of ecological understanding, practical skill, and economic foresight, demonstrating how human ingenuity can adapt to the harshest of natural environments while maintaining a deep respect for the resources upon which survival depends. Their work was not merely a series of mechanical tasks, but a continuous engagement with the rhythms of the forest, the seasonal behaviors of animals, and the subtle qualities of wood, water, and bark, each element influencing the ultimate quality of the pelts they produced. The knowledge that guided their hands, passed down through generations, refined by observation and tempered by necessity, offers a profound insight into the ways human societies can harmonize craft, commerce, and ecological awareness in a sustainable and enduring manner. In tracing the intricate processes of skinning, drying, salting, tanning, and softening, one gains an appreciation for the patience, dexterity, and intuition required to transform raw hides into durable and beautiful furs that could sustain livelihoods and support trade networks across vast and often unforgiving landscapes. Ultimately, the story of the North American trappers stands as a testament to the resilience, creativity, and cultural knowledge of those who lived at the interface of wilderness and commerce, leaving behind a rich heritage of skill, observation, and respect for the natural world that continues to inspire and inform even today.